Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
It's a Friday, a late Friday, but it's Friday.
Yep, I totally can relate to that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me today. May I ask
Yeah.
you to tell us your name and share anything about yourself you feel comfortable sharing?
Yes, I'm Linda Brandt in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the thing that comes to mind is I work in public health, but my true passion is bringing people together so that we can have a leadership body that's more diverse than the typical group. So whether that's public health, like I work in, or I'm part of a feminist movement called Lean In, or I do virtual co-working. So anything I do, I figure out how can we build more community so when things get hard, people stick around. And that's my big passion in life.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about your career. So,
Nope.
if you will, tell us how you decided on this as a career path and what are the challenges and successes you found in your career?
Yeah. Um, so I ended up in public health because I did a bunch of different jobs, and then I was challenged by my friend Mary to make a list of actually humiliating things and start with the easy ones. And I put on my list doing push-ups in front of people. So that led me to teaching group fitness at the YWCA. And soon people are looking to me for answers to their health questions. How do I lose weight? How do I quit smoking? How do I get rid of the fat on my back? Of course, no idea how they do that. But
Mhm.
um, so I asked my friend James, who should people be asking this question from? Because they're a fitness instructor. I have no idea.
Right.
So he said that's public health, that's health promotion, that's government responsibility. So that got me to go back to school. It turns out there are scholarships for people who have been out of school for about at least as long as I had been, which is more than 7 years. And so I went back to school, which I had no intention of ever doing, to learn about the field of public health.
Mhm.
And I I felt like, okay, this is what I should be doing. This is it's kind of, I mean, because it's the one group that thinks about everybody. It's not somebody that they're target marketing. It's the whole curve.
Yeah.
The both, and some of we end up working on the ends of the curves. People are doing really well or doing really badly, but the idea is to move everybody towards being healthier, and not just physical health, but social, community, financial, career health. Um, so, and then you said the challenges. The challenges is people like me often don't even know it exists.
Mhm.
So we're not reaching everybody with the public health message, and so it attracts people who um, either are attracted to government jobs or they have some connection to public health. So it's not yet reaching everybody. So that brings a set of problems where um, it can be kind of an insider game, which I'm not interested in that. That's not going to make everybody healthy if only some people know about it.
Right. So tell us,
Yeah.
so we hear the word public health a lot,
Yep.
and in the middle of a pandemic, it's such a salient word because here we are with all these challenges. So, you see Black and brown groups are most likely to be affected by this pandemic, regardless of their age or pre-existing health condition. And so when you think about coronavirus as a public health scar, if you will, what does it mean when you say it and when we hear the term public health? Can you describe that to us?
Yes. Um, So private health is health that you can purchase and that is kind of up to you.
Mhm.
And public health is the bigger forces that affect everybody, things that everybody has access. So it's like the quality of the air, the quality of the school system, the quality of the who has access to good Wi-Fi, which we're finding out is having an impact. Everything that affects the broader forces. So the only group that's really, I mean, somewhat philanthropic people think about that, but really public health, we are paying for public health, and it is supposed to sort of bring everybody up. So um, there's a lot of different aspects of where the government checks on the quality of the food or the water enforces certain protections that we've put in place. But it's anything that's supporting everybody's health. A little bit, I think of it on a day-to-day basis like the public library.
Mhm.
It's supposed to serve everybody. Shouldn't be like just people who can get to the library. That's why we have mobile, bookmobiles in some areas. Even when I was growing up, they had bookmobiles. So it should reach everybody. That's what keeps me in public health is there's nobody who it shouldn't be thinking about it, and should definitely be thinking about barriers so it can reach everybody.
So let me ask you this. So
Yeah.
in the middle of this election, we hear a lot of talk about the Affordable Care Act, or
Yep.
Obamacare. Some people refer to it as that. And one of the points that a lot of people are making for and against the candidates that are running for the White House is one wants to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, and others want to expand it further. But
Yep.
pre-existing conditions. So I don't know what they go in, but like in my family, there's a history of heart disease, cancer, and all those things. I have
Me
not
too.
been defined as having any of those things, but that's what kills most of my relatives.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I work for a private company, and so I have my own health insurance, and that's not there. But
Yep.
what does it mean for people when we hear these terms about pre-existing conditions? And I want you to expand that to even talk about the digital divide. Your point about the library is really good. The environment, so are you seeing a lot of pollution, so such as the fires out in California? What does that mean, even if you're not right there? So if you can talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
As I was thinking about today, I was thinking this is sort of a lesson for me in humbleness. I don't know a lot about the healthcare system.
Yeah.
I really, public health in my world is, we specifically, a small group of people deal with healthcare, schools, community, and worksite. And my focus is worksite. And I have long felt like public health should be totally championing healthcare for all. Like the Europeans have it, other countries when they set it up, they don't privatize it. They don't tie it to your employment.
Right.
And that's a battle we lost.
Yeah.
And I think it's something I wish more people were talking about. Like now that, I mean, same as you, when suddenly there was all this money being spent in response to the pandemic, I think a lot of us thought, wait a minute, didn't we just hear that there wasn't enough money for this?
Right.
Like to have healthcare for all? And I'm still digesting that personally. I don't know how mad it makes you, but it makes me really mad because I know that if everybody had healthcare, it would make such a big difference. Like, and it turns out money isn't the issue. It's public buy-in, and it's our system of, we here in Minnesota, we had a slogan, willing to pay for a better Minnesota. And there's also, there's the Scandinavian culture, German Scandinavian culture is a dominant culture where I live. And there is more of a collectivist feel. We have good library system, as you kind of brought up. But the forces that to make people just think about themselves are so strong, even with a history here of public parks, public libraries. So it's a big battle to make people see that they have an interest in their neighbor's health. And the pandemic should give us that. But we're not having that conversation, I don't think, about is it a right to have access to health care? And I think we're basically losing that battle right now with the inequality. And I think the people who care probably as passionately as you and I, we're not in positions of power because in my opinion, we haven't been able to strategically think we should put ourselves at these tables where these decisions aren't being made. And when we see those people passionately talking about how this is affecting them, I think we could win over more people, but we've got people who are really buffered. Even now, people are not seeing the cost. Who's paying the cost? They're not, like I did some coronavirus contact tracing. And so in my head, I have a very clear picture of who's got coronavirus here in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the same people who've been over affected by infectious disease last summer when there was a measles outbreak.
Mhm.
Exact same people. And it gives me chills because we know who's going to be affected, and a lot of us don't have contact. We don't have a diverse group of friends, and we don't know those people, and we think it's maybe their own fault.
Yeah.
And
I think what's
yeah,
really interesting about that, so I think everybody in America has some kind of health care. And it's defined in different ways, right? So if you don't have health insurance, you can go to the emergency room. So if you have the flu, instead of going in the flu shot or going whatever it is, you go to
Yep.
the emergency room. You crowd up the emergency rooms, and you have these long waiting lines. Or people go to,
Yep.
There are a lot of things that are there. I think that, what I think many people hoped with the Affordable Care Act was that there would be equality in healthcare. So if in your work, I'm sure you know that Black and brown women die in labor more
Yeah.
than any other group, right? Because
Yes.
either it's pre-existing conditions or they haven't had proper health care, right?
Yep.
So I can tell you a little bit about my health care. So I probably sit on the cusp of okay and poor health. And so when I go to the doctor, I often say, don't let me die. That's what I say to the doctor. So
Wow.
because it's rare that they seem genuinely interested in my well-being.
Oof.
I have to pay my copay, make sure my insurance pays it, and even further, my insurance company will send me, here's what they charged us, here's how much you must pay. But yet still that healthcare system sends me a bill for that part that my health system said I didn't have to pay. So they're expecting me to pay it. So I think that there's a lot out there about how we, specifically Black and brown women, see institutions that are supposed to serve us, right? So we think about this election, we're thinking about the environment, all of these things that we're concerned with, and more importantly, the opportunities that we have. And I don't know whether you paid any attention to the thing that happened to the governor, where this terrorist group was going to kidnap her, and in my mind, it's like we must have good and bad, right? So evil and light live together in the same space, right? And some of us pick up the banner for evil, and some of us pick up the banner for light. But even with that as the foundation of where we are in this world, and I mean, not just in America, but wherever we are in this world, we still don't see each other as equal. We don't see each other as being human beings created by God and viewed with the same things, the same desires and goals as everyone else. So as a Black woman, I often struggle with where I'm supposed to be at in my life. What am I supposed to be doing? What should I be doing to make the world better? So I make the world better one person at a time. I don't have a platform to go stand and talk to, but one person at a time. And a conversation I had with God and the universe, every day of my life, I was going to do something for somebody else. That's my mantra, so do something to make somebody else's life better.
Love it.
And that's what I adhere to every single day. And every time I encounter these ideologies of racism, violence, supremacy, women versus men, white versus Black, and all these things, to me, it just seems very confusing to keep that noise going in our world over and over again. Because, when you think about the environmental piece of that, that's just noise pollution, right? So I've got to hear somebody talk about white supremacy. What the hell is that? So I mean, and the other part of that is we want these people to get out of our country. So this Native Americans that are speaking, Monday is Indigenous People holiday, also known as Columbus Day, right? So there's that. But somehow or another, we want to tell people, well, get out of our country. You don't belong here. You're not whatever it is. So I think that the work you're doing and what you described is very powerful. And I hope you are able to continue to contribute to changing the narrative in that space. I think that a lot of people have misunderstandings. So when I asked you about public health, when I think of public health, I automatically think I go to a public doctor or a public space. I go to do DHA or Health and Human Services, or I go to some organization. That's what I think of when I think public health. And I think your point you described is more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s, I came across something called reevaluation counseling, co-counseling. And they had a theory that kind of moved social justice into all of this idea of if people listen to each other and get listened to, it would free up their brains.
Mhm.
But there has to be that social justice piece in there that some people have been hurt differently than you have been hurt. And you're not going to know until you listen to them and hear what exactly has happened. And so because I ran into that early in my life, in my 20s, it's hard for me to remember sometimes that some people haven't been listened to.
Mhm.
And they have so much of that, what you described as confusion in their head about I'm better than this group, I'm worse than this group, and they carry that noise. And I have plenty of that noise still myself. And I'm keeping looking to see, is there anything better than just being listened to and hearing other people, like kind of the Truth and Reconciliation in South Africa? Is there anything else to break through the noise? Yes, maybe the social media people. So I'm always curious, like what got people smarter about things? Was it reading? Was it a relationship? Was it, I think the book Bias talks about relationships, putting those college students together. And lots of people in my life have moved around, been transplants and been the other. So having that experiential learning of being treated as less than really seems to help with the empathy piece. And I think in Britain, they also work with, they bring in a child to the classrooms to teach empathy.
Mhm.
You know, how do we want to treat this young person? And Brene Brown is kind of the person who's trying to bring that forward.
Mhm.
That's where I kind of stay hopeful, because otherwise you're right. It's completely, you just think, you know, with so many people being treated so badly that people are clinging to any piece of like, I'm not bad. I mean, the confusion, I mean, we don't talk about internalizing that stuff. So it's not only they are bad, but I'm bad for the groups that I'm part of. I mean, men are maybe the obvious group where they're seeing that they're the ones creating a lot of the violence in the world. And there must be a part of them where they feel like, you know, I don't want to be like those men. Like those are, and I don't know. It's just, we're going to have to start talking more about not just the victim side, but the ways we all play a dominant role. And then we can think better and not demonize people when they're acting hurtfully.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen to the details about the terrorist stuff or the but it just seemed like it was another thing to keep women scared and not go into politics. I mean, that was a takeaway message I took. Oh, great. Now here's another reason that women are going to shy away from politics, because you could be kidnapped. And we know globally, kidnapping is a threat.
Yep.
But a lot of us have not faced that in the United States.
I
Um,
think that white power groups, and I don't even think
yeah.
that's the correct term. I think that groups that need to make themselves better typically do so out of fear, not out of rationality, but out of fear, right? So,
Yeah.
am I going to lose my way of life? Am I going to lose my
Yeah.
job? Am I going to lose my stature in the community? And so we create these organizations that drive fear, right? So
Yeah.
if you can get a bunch of young, old white men together and tell them that, you know, the blacks and the Hispanics and all these other people are going to take over, you're not going to have a job, they're going to be raping your daughters, you know, they're going to do all these things. And so if you preach that narrative, after a while, it sticks, right? So,
Yep.
you know, I'll give you a good example. So
Yeah.
if you take the word black, just the word black, right? So when you think of black, for me, I think of a car because I have a black car. But that's
Yeah.
what I think of when I think of black, right? It's my black car. But if you dissect the word black in the systematic structure of who we are as people, and all across the world, not just in the United States. So you know, you got
Yep.
India and all these places with caste systems. But if you take the word black and
Mm-hmm.
you look at how it's defined, so the only term, I think there's two terms, that there's Black Friday. If you're a holiday shopper, right after Thanksgiving, you're gonna go Black Friday shopping and buy everything in the store.
Right.
And then there is you're in the black versus being in the red in your company, right? So those two terms allow black to be a positive word.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else about black
Yeah.
infers
Black
negativity,
mark.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You
Black
know, so,
eye.
yep,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So it infers negativity.
Yeah.
That's a way to keep the dialogue going, right? So if I can
Mm-hmm.
use the word black and I can paint you as black, and even in black and brown communities, we have a thing like, can you get closer to white? So,
Mm-hmm.
you have dark skinned people and light skinned people, or whatever it is, trying to get the the path to right, because right is what we know is right. That's what we've been told our whole life. So it's important to be right. If you're right, you must be right. And our communities enforce that, right? So the people who lead our organizations, the people who are in charge, the people who do the hiring, the firing, all are white. So, yep, it must be white, must be right. So as you engage in these conversations with people, so I mean, I'm sure in your line of work, you spend a lot of time talking to people and trying to get them to understand the work that you do and to buy into what you're doing.
Right.
I think that in a lot of ways, the challenge you and many of us have to overcome is this thousands of years about what's wrong with being any color other than white, right?
Yeah.
So I remember when I grew up in South Carolina, a little rural town in South Carolina, and I remember there was a cadre of girls that were blonde, blue eyes, beautiful, bright young girls in high school with me. You know, they had bluest eyes, long blonde hair, and they were the good group. That's your all-American girl, right? The girl next door, the boy next door.
Right.
And then I thought to myself, well, aren't there white people who have brown hair and brown eyes, or brown hair and green eyes, or blue, whatever it is? So the measure is blonde and blue.
Yes.
Everything else is something wrong with it. And I think that as long as we keep those contingencies going, you know, to make something wrong with you in order for me to be okay. And that's, I think we're stuck in this. So I think you have a lot of work cut out for you. And I think that, you know, I used to pray that by the time my youngest son had children, that it would be a more diverse world. But we keep we keep pouring it back into the mixture, right? So, you know, you drain off the mixture and you pour it right back in. So we had Obama, and a lot of people thought, well, with the election of Obama, we had reached racial parity. No. What we did is we reached something that ended up with us having the president that we have now. So something about his President Obama's tenure was so unpalatable to some folks that we ended up on the exact opposite side. So we swing the pendulum from right all the way to, I mean, from left to far right, as far as you could go, and then a tinge of insanity to go with it. So there's that. So I think I would really like to know, you know, if you had a magic wand and you could strike your magic, what would be the first thing you do, and how would you know you've been successful?
Yep. So luckily, my friend Kirsten and I have talked about this, and we basically have decided that if everyone could tell that they're connected and acted like it, that would do it. And I think it would be caring about people who they haven't met and thinking, you know, for me, economic class stuff is essential. So when people are thinking, you know, and I really struggled when my partner decided to get surgery on his dog. I said, that's really a painful decision for me that you have. Luckily, we don't keep our finances together. But are you really thinking about how that money could serve somebody else who's a human being who could really, their life could be transformed? And I'm not saying we have it all figured out, but when you start thinking about not just the opportunity cost for you, but for other people, and I don't have a better example, but you're right. It would be subtle things like, you know, if I have been told this, like when you do stupid things and people see you and they have a high opinion of them, you add confusion to them. So if you can resist doing that, in not giving those mixed messages, you know, or you can say, this is an area I struggle. I'm trying to be more open at work that, you know, I'm kind of, I struggle with fitting in because I wasn't raised to be middle class and to follow, you know, shoes match your purse or even to have a purse. So the ways that I can't tell I'm part of the group, I act disconnected. I act like I'm different, and that doesn't go over well, as you can guess. So if we could tell that we're connected to each other and we could figure out ways to say, okay, that person has had different life experience than me, and if I had been treated exactly like they have been treated, I would be acting exactly like them. And that's a hard thing to really get, because over and over again, it's like you have to tell yourself, this is the best the person can do, including people who are doing really awful things. Maybe they have brain damage, maybe they were treated really badly. You know, a lot of people at the top were raised by someone other than their parents and were really terrorized and treated really badly. We don't talk about that. Right. But if you had been treated exactly like them, you would be acting exactly like them. So I think we're connected. If that would be my magic thing. You and I could tell, I mean, I think you and I, we can tell we're connected to people. And as the more chance we can, we broaden that group out. Now I can tell I'm connected to these people, but over time your life can get smaller, and you can fall into seeing people as different from yourself when really it's not really true. Yeah, so I don't know if I gave the examples of what it would look like if we're connected, but I know there are plenty of cultures around the world where people can tell they're connected and they act like it, and they do what's good for the group. And I think in the US we try to say, oh, then you'd lose innovation. I don't think so. I think there's a way to have both collective thinking and innovation, just because we're different enough that some people will be doing things differently.
Yeah, I think that's really, really nice. I think that, you know, your work and your advocacy is very, very important. But I also think that a lot of women have not felt empowered or run up against this stereotype of, I did a chat with one of my friends. She had come to my workplace a few years ago and she introduced the word hippie, right? So I had never heard that word. I was just so in awe of that word. It was just amazing, right? So you can be in a room, a woman be in a room with a whole bunch of other people and make a statement, and it's crickets in the room. No one responds to it, nothing. And then a man takes that same phrase, reformats it, and they're, oh man, that's a great idea, John. So this is just great, you know. And the woman is sitting there kind of, you know, like, what? The deer in the headlights kind of things. That what did just happen to me? I just said the same thing. He put in a additional adjective or an adverb or something, but it's the same thing I just said. And his idea is golden. So I think that, you know, among women, it is a fight for us to see each other as equals and to make a community among ourselves, right? So we allow our race, our sexual orientation, our education, our jobs, whatever it is, separate us. And as long as we continue to do that, we're going to be a weaker sex, as opposed to seeing a woman who is doing something, whether you agree with her or not, that you support her, you encourage her, you stand with her, you kind of, you're in the fight for her, as the old people used to say, skin in the game. You put your skin in the game for that person. And that to me is one of the greatest things that we have to do. And I think that if we can ever empower women enough to be strong enough to stand on their own, we can bring the rest of the world together, because the world is nothing without us, right? So if they woke up tomorrow and they killed all the women on the planet would just disintegrate, right? So nothing would happen. But we have been sort of like Black and brown people as women. We have allowed ourselves to be told that we are not enough, right? So you probably remember, like, you know, Clinton and others, when we were doing these little fights with terrorists and stuff, like women couldn't go to the front line.
Right.
Why? Because we are the weaker sex, because we have to have children. But yet and still you turn around and use that same thing against us when we decide to have a child and stay home and work from home, or something, that there's a problem with that. So I think that, to me, if I had a magic wand, that's what I would empower women to see themselves as they really are, and not, you know, as someone's wife or someone's mother or someone, but as a pure standing being who changes the world every single day that we breathe. Every day. You know? And for some reason, we don't know that. We or if we do know it, we take these little knocks upside our heads and we become, you know, kind of forgetful about our power and who we are. Right? That's why women don't, there's not a lot of women on boards, you know, Fortune 500 companies. There's not a lot of Black and brown women in these spaces. All of these things relate back to how women see each other. And we are always competitive with each other, you know, and I can't imagine why, you know, because I've been married to my husband for 5,000 years. And I always say, if some woman wants him, if she can get him, she should have it. I'm not going to be fighting about this or be turned upside down about this. If he wants to go over there, let him go. I'm not competing with her. I'm not even going to have a conversation. If you can do it, honey, have at it. And it's the same thing with jobs. It's the same thing with pay. It's all of it. You know, we have to see each other as partners. We have to be in this fight together. You know, we take the right to vote for women. You know, it was unity of women coming together. We must find that energy again.
Yes, I completely agree with you. The one concrete thing, we have this cultural metaphor about putting on the mask for women. That we hear that message, and I just think, put on that mask because you're important. That message you just gave, not so you can make sure everybody else is okay. Like that, I get it. We can play this game of like, that's the way to get in with women. Oh, I'm going to have to be strong to take care of my children. okay, I get it. Operationally, we have to appeal to that, but I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in the world where women are putting on the mask just because, like you said, they're a human being, they get to breathe, maybe nobody benefits, and it's okay. But the other thing is, I was so grateful to my friend Duchess, who told me about tripping the prom queen, about how women compete on every aspect of life. So exactly what you said. And that's what I hear universally from women around the world. If we didn't spend all this energy trying to get, agree on everything, if we could be okay with disagreements and still back each other, all this energy would be freed up.
Yeah. And
So let's
I
do that.
often tell people, when I talk about diversity, people automatically assume it's the construct of skin, right? So race,
Yep.
Things like that. I think diversity is one of those things where you have, so like your image in the background. Now, if you look back there, I mean, I would say I probably see 30 different trees behind you, shrubs and all that stuff. There's not one tree in the universe. There's not
Yeah.
one shrub or one flower or one creature. There is so much diversity. I mean, even among dogs. So if you want to
Yeah.
take dogs, how many dogs are there? I mean, they all have a
Yeah.
commonality. They're on four legs, and they're whatever the characteristics are to have a
Yes.
dog. And for some reason, as the universe kind of evolves, we want more one tree. We just want one. We want a world full of pine trees or oak trees
Yeah.
or crepe myrtles or whatever, magnolias, whatever you like. We all want a
Yeah.
world of those trees versus
Right.
the diversity of all the trees. And I
Yeah.
think among women, so one of my favorite things, one of my favorite stories from my early in my career. I am I am an extreme introvert, so I'm not very good with people, and especially in parties and events. I like to be by myself or to go in my room and read. So I went to one of my neighbor's house, and I lived somewhere else, and I went over there, and she made a point of telling me all the things about her house. Like I must have been blind, maybe I was struck blind when I walked in the door, but this is a $10,000 concrete floor, and this is somebody's couch. And I was sitting there thinking, why is she telling me this? What am I supposed to get from that? And I think it's one of those things where I have to, is that one upman, I have to be better than somebody else. So she was trying to make sure I fit in my place, right? So I knew where I belonged in her world.
Wow.
And I think that when we buy into that, we do ourselves a disservice. That's why healthcare is the way it is. That's why
Yeah.
the economics of our world is the way it is. I mean, India is a perfect example, right? So, and I would even go, I'll come back to that. But so India has these things where, your last name, where you're born at, town you're born in, all of these things malign you. Why? Why would it matter if your
Yeah.
last name was Jones versus Brown versus Green, whatever your last, why would it matter what your name
Yeah.
is? But you have to assign a value to people, right? So as a Black woman, so we do so white men are one, white women are two, Asian men are three, Asian women are four. Then you then struggle with what's left, right? So Black, Latino, whatever it is, you're struggling with that. Why do we need these things? What
Yeah.
do they do for us other than pointing out the difference? I don't know a single person I've ever known who goes out in the yard and says, "Oh my God, there's a pear tree over there. What is it doing here? We need to cut down. We need to get some disinfectant. We need to kill everything." It's a pear tree.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I think that is what I hope your work will result in, that people appreciate the differences that we are in the world.
Well, you are leading on that. And I mean, it's so, I mean, the word is beautiful. It's so beautiful that you're modeling. And I think I mean, to me, how could I not be struck by your wanting every day to make a difference in the world? I mean, can you just infect all of us with that, please? Because maybe that is the evidence of of people. If more and more of us are saying every day, I want someone else to benefit from the fact that I'm breathing.
Yep.
And if it's just even a smile or
Yep.
just good energy I'm radiating out, doesn't have to be all this, hoo-ha. It can be just really simple things of like, I can tell I'm important and I can tell they're important. And yeah, so thank you for your good work.
Well, I think you're welcome, but I think we're all doing good work. We just have to have it recognized and appreciated by those that are around us, because I know a lot of people don't. They do everything they can to undermine it, but I don't let that bother me. Whatever it is you want to say or think, I think that the only person who I want to judge me is God and the universe. I want the universe to say what my life meant while I was here. What other
Yeah.
people think of me is, I mean, even people that are related to me, friends, whatever, it's inconsequential. I know who I am, at least within myself, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great thing. I want to ask you one question, and
Yeah.
then I'll give you a few minutes to finish. But I want to ask you this question. So, as a woman in your area of expertise, what challenges or obstacles have you experienced to get to where you want to go? Have you had any instances where you've not been able to succeed simply because you're a woman?
I think looking back, I'm 50. So I now have the benefit of looking back and seeing the way that my world was so small,
Mhm,
because I live with an architect. I didn't even know that that existed,
mhm,
frankly. Didn't know that was an option.
mhm,
So my life was narrowed just repeatedly over and over again. And I'm just over my lifetime seeing that I got a pretty terrible education. I didn't know. I didn't had any idea. And it took me till maybe even till my 30s or 40s
mhm,
to realize when you're checking out library books to get an education, you don't have a good education. But I was told compared to other people. So I the part about being female, I think I'm just realizing how that what you exactly said of internalizing being a second class citizen. Yep, actually now I can see it. I defined my biggest achievement until probably 10 years ago as being in a long-term relationship.
mhm,
And that's part of, people at the bottom. It's about relationships. That's my culture I come from. But
mhm,
I think that there's a particular way that I didn't take myself seriously. I didn't take risks. Even Michelle Obama, interviewed by Oprah, says, "You haven't seen anything from me yet." So I think that low expectations, hugely, partly from being raised poor, but also from being female, and it just kind of sealed the deal. And being labeled smart wasn't enough.
right.
It wasn't enough to free me from that. I didn't think I was ever going to accomplish anything important in my lifetime. And that keeps you from building a life where you can have more influence. So I think it's yes. So I wouldn't say it's particular to my field, but I was a secretary. I could have continued to be a secretary and see, you know, people up the chain were doing exactly the same thing in me as being paid. Just it would eventually ground me down, and I would have just I don't know. It is that being part of a community that listens to each other that help free up some of that, what I've learned to call head trash
Mhm.
from the latest book I'm reading, start finishing. So I think it's very hard to identify what the internalized sexism looks like and where it's been hard to be close to other women and to be a group because of what you pointed out as well. So there's societal level, individual level, and this is like in the last, because of the pandemic, the first time I've had a partner pick up menstrual products for me. So I had to do all the extra work, not just caregiving as a female, but also just embarrassment that's kept me from delegating. Um, um, yeah, just all ways that that's kept me small and never once considered running for office. Never once. Never once.
I think society has conditioned us women in a lot of ways, and I say black and brown women probably more than others, but have
Yep.
conditioned us not to challenge the status quo, right? So
Yep.
this is my lot in life. So I'm poor. I live in the projects. I don't have enough to eat.
Yep.
Whatever my structure looks like, I should be okay with it. The
Yeah.
desire to achieve more has to be with you in a way that makes you want to fight through all of the entanglements that you encounter as you're going about your life and whatever it is. So
Yeah.
women whose husbands are abusive to them, women whose husbands have cheated on them, all of these things you think about. For most of us, and I'm older than you, and a lot of parts of that have been stay for the sake of the family,
Yeah.
stay for the sake of our economic well-being,
Yep.
support our stand by your man, regardless to
Yeah.
what your man is doing,
Yeah.
stand by your man. And I think that we are so accustomed to being mushed down, pushed down, muted, that we believe that's what we should be. So when we are outspoken and we are then now aggressive. So that word that we get labeled when we are aggressive, not assertive. A man can do all those same things, but when we do it, we are aggressive, or there's some negative connotation associated with us in that space. So it's just a phenomenal world that we live in. And I think that whoever came up with the soup that we have, you know, in the world of a big pot of soup, somebody really put some good thought into this, because we've created this difference between women and women, white and black, brown and brown, black and brown, black and yellow, black and red. I mean, it's crazy. It's just literally insane. Okay, so I'm leaving my soapbox alone. You have about 5 minutes. I leave the last 5 minutes for you to talk about whatever you wish to talk about.
I just want to say thank you. You know, it's a gift that you're giving the world, and you model everything that you've said. And, you know, I feel like if we had more people like you, well supported, and I don't know what that looks like, because you didn't say a lot about what that would look like, but if we can more strategically push people like you out front, well supported, making leadership look fun and interesting and not a hardship, but an opportunity to bring people together. I think that's the world I want to live in, and that's something I would put my life on the line for. And I don't get that opportunity to say that on a daily basis. I would put my life on the line for that.
That's beautiful.
Because, so thank you for, you know, reaching into people and pulling out, what do you really care about? What are you willing to go to the mat for? Where is your skin in the game? And supporting leaders like you, top of my list.
Well, thank you.
Whatever, you know, I want you to ask. I want you to ask for help. I want you to say what you need. I don't want you to be shy. I want you to risk pissing people off with, you know, oh, here's another thing she wants. Are you kidding? Why is she asking us again? I want you to feel, like you said, like, of course, if I need something, people should know.
Yeah,
I would do the same.
So. But I think we have an obligation to make the world better. You know, you're supposed to leave something behind after you've been there. And it's not your career. It's not 50 years in a job or a gold watch or whatever. It is to make the world better than you found it. And if you come into the world with the idea of making it better than you found it, you've left a legacy for yourself and for your children and those who will look upon you. And that's my hope for myself. You know, I don't know how much breath I have left in this space, but I believe, you know, my little side joke. So when Hillary Clinton ran for president, I wanted to see a woman in my lifetime be president. I just wanted to redact the stereotypes of women, right? So we're going to press the button and launch the missiles, or we're going to have, when we're in our cycle, we're going to be emotionally high or emotionally low. I just wanted that to be wiped out. You know, I just really wanted people to see that a woman could lead. And there are some amazing examples of women leading in our world, right? You know, there are women who run Fortune 500 companies, women who are doing amazing things. And this pandemic has really highlighted some of those things. Women who have very little, who are giving immense things back to the world, right? People who find themselves hungry are opening up soup kitchens and feeding people. And, you know, we have so much power if we only embraced it and saw each other as a part of our community. So if you and I apply for a job and you get it, I think that's great. I should be supporting you 100% instead of feeling some kind of way about you because you got it and I didn't, or you have something that I don't. And I think that competitiveness that people impose on women has made us weaker because we don't attack what people have defined as. So if you stood up, you were in a meeting and you said something and you were ignored and a man repeated it and it was accepted. If you stood up and said, I just said that. And if somebody assumes that you're aggressive, let them. Because all you just did was speak up for yourself. Men do it all the time, and it's never a question, you know. So I just hope that that's the world that we can create, a world where women see their value and that they see each other as you need other women. You know, yes, you should have a husband. Yes, you should be a mother or father. Whatever you choose, you should have that thing. But you should see women as a part of your community that you're building every single day to bring us together, to beat back this monster about what it means to be a woman.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I want that too. And yes, it's one of my fondest dreams when I was very young, to see women see themselves as so powerful they had to worry about hurting other people, versus the opposite, which is what we're trained to be afraid of being hurt. Like, just know, like you said, how powerful they are. Just like the picture behind you. I am here. I am powerful.
right.
There's no limits.
Absolutely. Linda, thank you so much for chatting with me
Yeah.
today. It has
What a
absolutely
pleasure.
been phenomenal. Thank you for your time on late Friday afternoon. I don't know what your commute, or whether you're working from home, but hopefully you can go home and relax and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I thank you very much for this. I
Yes.
will send you a link to the video once it converts, and you please watch it and let me know if I may upload it.
I can tell. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I
Yep.
appreciate this very much. Stay well and stay in touch. Let's talk some more.
I agree. Let's stay in
Absolutely.
touch.
Thank you,
Thanks
dear.
so much.
Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
You
Bye.
too.